Myths and legends are common worldwide and often have similar characters and themes. But the continent of Africa produces some truly distinct mythical figures and stories. From vomiting creation gods to shape-shifting spiders and living goddesses, let's take a look at 7 unique African myths and legends. Number 1. Bumba. This creation myth comes from Central Africa, now the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and addresses the age-old question of how our world came into existence. First, there was only darkness, water, and the first ancestor, Bumba, or Mbambo. Bumba had an illness that was brought on by his intense loneliness. Feeling a bit queasy, Bumba vomited up the sun, which dried up some of the water, creating land. Bumba proceeded to vomit the moon, stars, a leopard, an eagle, a crocodile, a fish, a tortoise, a heron, a beetle, a goat, and a black cat-like animal called Tsitsibumba. Before he could even think, "I don't remember eating that," he puked up humans. All his vomit then started making other things. The heron created birds. The fish created other fish. The beetle produced insects. The goat made horned animals, while the crocodile made serpents and an iguana. Then snakes made grasshoppers, with the iguana getting the lion's share of the work and making all the other creatures without horns, presumably including lions. Next, Bumba's sons had a go at making the rest of the world. The eldest son, Inyonye Ngana, tried vomiting up ants but died soon after. To honor him, the ants burrowed underground, looking for soil to bury him. They brought the soil to the surface and formed the life-giving topsoil on which the region still depends. Chonganda, the middle son, created a plant that made all the other trees and plants, while the youngest, Cheribumba, made the kite, the final bird to be produced. Tsitsibumba, the cat-like creature, started to become troublesome, so Bumba chased her into the sky, where she continued to strike at the earth in the form of lightning. Once everything was created and humans were taught to use fire, Bumba returned to the heavens. Number 2. Hippopotamuses. As hippos are native to Africa, the legends surrounding them are unique to the area. There are many myths about hippos across the continent. In Egypt, Taweret, the goddess of childbirth and fertility, is commonly depicted as a female hippopotamus. While female hippos are generally seen as nurturing, male hippos are depicted as shape-shifting beasts. The Ronga people of Mozambique tell a story of a mother leaving her child with a female hippo for safekeeping. In the Songhay and Mali legend of hero Faramaka, a huge indestructible male hippo eats all the crops until it is finally subdued by magic. The Kikuyu people of central Kenya have a legend about why hippos don't eat fish. According to the tale, when their creator god Lord Ngai made hippos, they were to roam the forests and plains. But the hippopotamus was greedy and ate more and more, growing fat. The bigger the hippo got, the more he suffered in the heat of the day. And when he drank from the river, he gazed at the fish swimming in the cool water. The hippo longed to be able to live in the refreshing water and begged Ngai to let him live in the rivers and lakes instead of on the hot land. Ngai refused initially, telling the hippo that he was bound to eat all the little fish due to his appetite. Hippo promised he would not eat the fish if he were allowed to live in the water. And as proof that he would keep the promise, Hippo vowed to scatter his dung on the earth to show Ngai that it did not contain any fish bones. So, when a hippo spins his tail, flinging dung around, and looks up into the sky, it is him saying, "Look, Ngai, no fish." Number 3. Majachi, the Rain Queen. This living legend comes from the Balobedu people of the Limpopo province of South Africa. There are several origin stories for this female-led dynasty. One myth states the line of female rulers came from Zimbabwe, where the princess of the Monomotapa was blamed for a crime and threatened with execution. The princess then fled to South Africa with a horn gifted to her by her father, which had rain-making powers. Another, perhaps more famous tale, involves an old chief named Mugodu in Karanga. Mugodu was told by ancestral spirits that his sons were plotting to overthrow him, and the only way he could stop this coup was to impregnate his daughter. The spirits promised that if he did so, they would give his daughter supernatural abilities to control the rain, and this gift would be passed on to her first daughter. Mugodu followed the instructions of the spirits, executing his sons and marrying his daughter. The first child conceived was male, so Mugodu had the baby strangled. The second pregnancy produced a girl they called Majachi, meaning ruler of the day. The baby was given the power to control the rain, which brought wealth and prosperity to the kingdom. The first Rain Queen was said to have the power to drown her enemies in a torrential downpour or grant light showers to water crops. Luckily, the mysticism of the position meant that instead of attacking the Balubedu, powerful rivals sent emissaries to ask the Majachi for rain. Supposedly, the Majachi queens lived surrounded by the Majachi Cicade Reserve, a huge green area that adds to the mystique. One hillside in the region contains the largest concentration of a distinct cicade species, known as the Majachi palm. Traditionally, the Rain Queen does not marry and bears children through secret consorts. Since Majachi V, the Balubedu have had to rely more on money from tourism than tribute for rain. The current century has seen tragedy for the Rain Queens. Majachi V's daughter passed away at age 37, just 3 days before her mother. The sixth Majachi was Queen Makobu Constance Majachi, who succeeded her grandmother and was crowned in 2003. Sadly, after only 2 years as queen, she fell ill with meningitis and died, leaving behind a 5-month-old daughter. Makobu's brother had been acting as regent to the young Rain Queen, who will take the role when she turns 18 in 2023. Number 4. Nyami Nyami. This myth comes from the Tonga tribe of the Zambezi River. Nyami Nyami is a river god that takes the shape of a serpent-like creature, 3 meters wide and immeasurably long. He lives in Lake Kariba, and it is said that he stains the water red as he swims. Traditionally, he lived under a large rock and would create whirlpools to suck down anyone sailing a canoe too close to his territory. The locals called the rock the Trap, or Kariwa. The name of the lake is a westernized mispronunciation of Kariwa. In the 1940s, plans were made to construct a hydroelectric dam on Lake Kariba to supply power for the growing industrialization brought on by colonialism. The peace and tranquility of the Tonga tribe was shattered as heavy machinery moved into the valley, tearing out ancient trees in preparation to build roads. The Tonga were horrified, especially when they heard the plans to build a dam in Nyami Nyami's territory. They were told they would have to move away from their homes and ancestral lands as the flooding caused by the dam would leave the area underwater. However, the villagers believed that Nyami Nyami would never allow the dam to be built, and they would be able to return to their homes. Construction of the dam started in 1956, but in 1957, the worst floods ever known to affect the Zambezi washed away equipment and much of the partially completed dam. Workers were also swept away in the flood, and 11 men were thrown into the still wet concrete. As it would have been impractical and costly to remove the bodies, they remain encased in the dam wall. Some of the men that had been swept away completely disappeared, and their bodies could not be found. As the Tonga knew the river better than anyone, the elders were asked to help with the search. The elders told them that Nyami Nyami had caused the disaster, and the bodies would not reappear until he was appeased with a sacrifice. After some initial skepticism, a black calf was killed and floated in the river. The following morning, the men's bodies were floating where the calf had been placed. Despite more record-breaking floods the following year, the dam was finished, and in 1960, the generators began to supply power. But the Tonga people still believe Nyami Nyami will one day break the dam, and they will be able to return to their home. They say that the dam had separated the river god from his wife, and that earth tremors that are now frequent in the area are caused by the couple trying to reunite. During the past 10 years, it has been revealed that the Kariba Dam is on the verge of collapse. Its stony facade is crumbling, and the crashing water has formed a huge crater at its base, threatening its foundations. Extended hot seasons have drained the reservoir, and any attempt at repairing it may end up causing further damage. It is thought that if the dam does fall, it will cause a tsunami to tear through the Zambezi River Valley, knocking down the Cahora Bassa Dam in Mozambique and taking out 40% of the hydroelectric capacity in southern Africa. So perhaps Nyami Nyami will be reunited with his lost love and exact wrathful revenge. Number 5. Kong. Kong is a creator deity in Bushman mythology. Also known as Kang, Kong, Ko, and Thora, he is usually thought of as an invisible spirit of natural phenomena. His story starts with him living peacefully with all living creatures underneath the Earth's surface. The place where they dwelt was warm and light. All things could communicate effectively, and they wanted for nothing. Kong then planned the world above, in which all creatures would live. He built a glorious tree that spreads its branches over the world before creating all the world's wonders. Soon he led a man up into the world he had made, followed by a woman and then all other humans and the animals. Kong instructed that they should live together in peace and harmony, but they should not make fire, as it would unleash evil upon the world. All was fine until the sun began to set. The creatures of the world had never seen darkness or felt cold before. As humans had no fur or feathers to keep them warm, nor superior eyesight to see in the dark, they soon became cold and fearful that they would never see the sun again. Before long, the frightened humans decided that their only option was to start a fire. Once it was lit, the people began to feel better. They felt the warmth on their skin and saw each other in the light. But when they turned to their animal companions, they found they had all fled. They tried calling to them, but soon realized the animals could no longer understand them. The broken promise had separated humans and animals forever. Number 6. Nana-Buluku and Mawu-Lisa. Nana-Buluku was a Western African creation goddess. She is known by many names, but she is always a mother goddess. In one tale, Nana-Buluku created the universe and birthed twins, a girl named Mawu, who was associated with the moon, and a boy, Lisa, linked to the sun. Mawu climbed aboard the great rainbow serpent and rode through the universe, creating everything. Together, Mawu and the rainbow serpent made the earth, but when they finished, they found it was too big and unbalanced. In an effort to stabilize it, the rainbow serpent wrapped himself around the earth and squeezed it into the perfect size and shape. But the only way he could hold it steady was to bite down on his tail. Seeing the serpent's skin was burning in the sun, Mawu created the oceans to cover him. Once the earth was stabilized, Lisa joined Mawu, and they began to have children. First, they birthed the other goddesses and gods, then the animals, flora and fauna. Then they had their problem child, humans. Like most human children today, they had no respect for their creators, were ungrateful for all they had been given, and refused to clean up after themselves. Mawu needed a break and went off into the moon to get some peace. But soon mum guilt hit, and she realized that the humans she had created just needed some guidance. She sent Lisa to teach the humans to look after themselves. Lisa was up to the challenge, but needed backup, so he took the war god with him. Together, they taught humans to build shelters, make clothes and tools, and how to live more comfortably. Lisa then went to live near Mawu in the sun, and every eclipse the two meet. Number 7. Anansi. Anansi is a character from African mythology that has gained popularity throughout Africa, the Caribbean, and beyond. Anansi is a spider that can transform into human guise, along with his wife Aso. He is a trickster, teaching moral and ethical lessons through turns of fate or puzzles. There are many stories about Anansi, including one about him creating the sun, moon, and stars. Some say he brought agriculture and writing to the earth. In one story, he collects all of the world's wisdom in a gourd, determined to keep it for himself, but it keeps spilling out. Soon, he realized knowledge is better shared, and now he goes about distributing it among all people. One well-known tale says that Anansi, in the form of a spider, approaches Inyame, the sky god, and asks to be appointed king of all wisdom narratives. Inyame sets Anansi the seemingly impossible task of capturing the jaguar, the hornets, and the invisible fairy of the forest. Anansi manages to trick the jaguar into being tied up, convinces the hornets that it's going to rain and allows them to hide in his gourd, and fools the invisible fairy into fighting a doll made from the bark and resin of the gum tree. Having completed the task, Inyame names him king of all wisdom narratives and gives him access to the sky god's stories. Africa is considered humankind's birthplace, so it is little wonder that it holds a treasure trove of magical myths. Let us know in the comments below if you know any other African legends that you feel should have made this list. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about African mythology, check out our book, African Mythology, Captivating Myths of Gods, Goddesses, and Legendary Creatures of Africa. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.